She laughed when she said it, joked about swapping me out like an old car. The room froze the moment I mentioned his name. Finn Walsh. That's when everything broke. 2 sons. 1 affair. 15 years of lies. And a DNA test that would upend everything I believed about family. My name's Dale Pritchard. I'm 44, a technical writer for a mid-sized software firm in Portland, Oregon. I've been married to a woman named Daphne for 16 years. We have 2 boys, James, 15, and William, who just turned 8. On paper, we looked like the picture of stability. In truth, I was living in a house built on deceit. It all unraveled one Saturday night in early September. My buddy, Greg Stillman, was hosting his yearly end-of-summer barbecue. His backyard glowed under cheap LED lights from the hardware store, and the fire pit burned bright. I was holding a beer, now barely cold, halfway through a story about my first motorcycle when Daphne cut me off. "You know," she said loud enough for everyone to hear, using that tone she saved for when she wanted an audience. "If I ever upgraded, I'd probably go for someone who earns more than 45 an hour writing manuals." She laughed. No one else did. Silence settled. Greg stared into the fire. His wife, Linda, bit her lip and looked away. Even their teenage daughter, usually glued to her phone, looked up with wide eyes. I set my beer down slowly. My heart hammered, but my voice stayed calm. "Upgrade, huh?" I said, locking eyes with Daphne. "That's funny, considering you've been test driving Finn Walsh for 2 years." Her face drained of color. For a heartbeat, I saw a panic flash in her eyes. Then it vanished, replaced by that cold smile she wore when she wanted to win. "You're embarrassing yourself, Dale," she said, like she was scolding a child. "Tell them," I said quietly. "Go on. Tell everyone about Finn. About that hotel in Seattle last month. The weekend you said you were visiting your sister in Tacoma." Daphne stood, brushing invisible dust from her jeans. "You're being paranoid again," she said, but her voice trembled. Greg cleared his throat. Linda looked like she wished she could disappear. The fire crackled louder than anyone breathed. I didn't yell. I didn't have to. I saw the messages, Daphne. All of them. She turned her back and walked toward the cooler as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't just exposed the lie we'd been living. That's when I realized this wasn't guilt or shame. This was who she was now. I didn't drive home with her that night. I spent it in a roadside motel off Highway 26, the kind with flickering neon and a clerk who didn't ask questions. The room smelled of smoke and bleach. The air conditioner rattled like it was about to die. I didn't care. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching my phone light up with messages I refused to open. Sleep never came. My mind replayed Greg's backyard, Daphne's face when I said Finn's name, how quickly she recovered, like she'd rehearsed it. That wasn't surprise. It was calculation. By 6 a.m., I was parked outside our house in Beaverton. The lights were off, curtains drawn. Everything looked normal. But I knew better. I waited until 7:30, then unlocked the front door. The house was still. Too still. I walked through the living room, past William's toys scattered on the floor, past James's sneakers by the stairs. Everything in place, yet nothing felt right. Daphne was in the bedroom, still in last night's clothes, lying on top of the covers. Her phone glowed on the nightstand. She opened her eyes when I entered, but didn't move. "You're back," she said flatly. No question. No apology. I didn't answer. I picked up her phone. No passcode. She hadn't even bothered to lock it. "What are you doing?" she asked, sitting up, but she didn't stop me. I opened her messages. There it was, Finn Walsh. The name I dreaded to see confirmed in black and white. I scrolled. Dozens of texts. Photos. Voice notes. 2 days ago. "Can't wait to see you Thursday. Same place." Her reply. Counting down the hours. I dropped the phone on the bed. Didn't throw it. Just let it fall, heavy with truth. Daphne stood, running her fingers through her hair. "So what now?" she asked, her voice sharp, defensive. "You gonna make a scene? Tell everyone? Ruin everything we've built?" I looked at her, really looked, and didn't recognize the woman standing there. "You already did that," I said quietly. "Last night at Greg's, in front of everyone. That was your fault," she snapped. "You brought him up. You embarrassed me." I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "I embarrassed you?" She folded her arms. "You know exactly what I mean." "No," I said, shaking my head. "I really don't." I turned and walked out. She called after me, but I didn't stop. I grabbed my keys from the counter and left. I didn't know where I was headed, only that I couldn't stay there. For 3 days, I vanished. No calls, no texts. I shut off my phone and drove north until I reached the coast. Ended up at a state park near Cannon Beach, the kind with endless trails winding through the trees. That first night, I slept in my truck at a trailhead, surrounded by the sound of wind in the pines and waves breaking in the distance. The silence was what I needed. No Daphne, no accusations, no lies disguised as explanations. Just me, alone with 15 years of memories and questions about where everything had gone wrong. Moments replayed in my head. Last Christmas, when Daphne claimed she had to work late and came home past midnight smelling of cologne that wasn't mine. The weekend she said she was attending a marketing conference in Seattle, only for her boss at the company picnic to tell me there hadn't been one. The sudden obsession with going to the gym 5 days a week, though nothing about her ever changed. I brushed it all off, told myself good husbands trusted their wives, that she deserved her privacy. What an idiot I'd been. On the second day, I called my brother, Scott. He lived in Eugene, 2 hours south. We hadn't talked in months. Dale, he said, picking up on the third ring. Everything okay? I told him everything. The cookout, the messages, Finn Walsh. When I finished, he was silent for a long time. I never liked her, he finally said. She always looked at you like you were just a step on her way up, not a partner. That hit harder than I expected. Why didn't you ever tell me? I asked. Would you have listened? He replied. You were in love, man. People in love don't want to hear the truth. He was right. I wouldn't have listened then, but I was listening now. Scott told me to come stay with him whenever I was ready, said his couch was mine as long as I needed. I thanked him and hung up. By the third day, I drove back to Portland, not to the house in Beaverton, but to my friend Jamie's place in Hillsborough. Jamie and I went way back to college, and if anyone would get it, it was him. When I knocked, he opened the door, took one look at me, and didn't ask a single question. He just pulled me into a hug. Come on in, brother. His wife, Rachel, brewed coffee, and we sat at their kitchen table. I told them everything. When I mentioned Finn Walsh, Jamie's expression shifted. Wait, Finn Walsh. Tall guy, commercial real estate? Yeah, I said slowly. Why? He and Rachel exchanged a look. Dale, Jamie said, leaning forward, Finn used to work with Daphne 3 years ago at that marketing firm downtown. My stomach sank. What? Rachel nodded. I remember her mentioning him at your 4th of July party a few years back. Said he was persistent and she had to shut him down. So this wasn't new. This wasn't a recent lapse or a one-time mistake. It had been going on for years. Daphne had looked me in the eye and told me Finn was just a co-worker who wouldn't take no for an answer, and I believed her. I felt sick. I'm sorry, man, Jamie said quietly. I nodded, unable to speak. Because now I finally understood, this wasn't about me not being enough. It was about Daphne being exactly who she'd always been. I'd just been too blind to see it. I didn't go back home for another 4 days. I stayed with Jamie and Rachel, sleeping on their couch, trying to figure out what came next. My mind was clearer now. The anger had burned away, replaced by something colder, more precise. I needed evidence, not just for myself, but for the divorce, for custody of William. Because I knew Daphne. She'd twist the story, make herself the victim, call me controlling, unstable, whatever fit best. I wasn't going to let that happen. I started with the phone records. The plan was under my name, so I had full access. I logged in and downloaded every call and text from the past 2 years. Hundreds of calls to the same number, Finn's. Late nights, early mornings, times she claimed she was at yoga, at the store, visiting her sister. Then I pulled the credit card statements, hotel stays in Seattle, restaurants I'd never been to, a jewelry purchase from 3 months ago that I'd never seen her wear. She'd been using our money to fuel her affair. I printed everything, sorted it by date, built it like a case file, because that's exactly what it was. Saturday morning, I drove back to the house. Daphne's car was in the driveway. I took a deep breath, grabbed the folder from the passenger seat, and walked in. She was in the kitchen, pouring coffee into a mug I'd bought her years ago, the one that said "World's Best Mom." The irony hit hard. When she saw me, she didn't look shocked, just tired. You're back, Daphne said, setting the pot down. The boys have been asking about you. Where are they? I asked. James is at a friend's. William's upstairs playing video games. Then she folded her arms. So what now? Are we going to talk about this like adults, or are you just going to keep running? I placed the folder on the counter. It landed with a dull thud. Daphne glanced at it. What's that? I asked evenly. Everything, I said. Every lie you've told over the last 3 years. Every call, every hotel, every dollar you spent on him. She didn't even look at the folder. Instead, she laughed, actually laughed. Oh, Dale, don't be so dramatic. What are you going to do? Take this to an attorney and try to ruin me? I already have one, I said. Met with him yesterday. Filed for divorce this morning. That wiped the grin off her face. You what? Daphne snapped. You heard me, I said. I'm finished. We're finished. I'm taking William, and you can keep whatever's left of this house and this farce of a marriage. She grabbed the folder and hurled it across the counter, scattering papers everywhere. You don't get to just decide that, she shouted. We have 2 kids. We have a life here. Had, I corrected her. We had a life. You destroyed it the day you started sleeping with Finn Walsh. Her face flushed crimson. You think you're perfect, don't you? You think you're the hero here. No, I said quietly. But I'm not the liar. She opened her mouth to fire back, but I was already heading for the stairs. Where are you going? She demanded. To pack, I said. Then I'm leaving, and William's coming with me. I moved into Scott's place in Eugene the following week. It was a small 2-bedroom house with a workshop out back and a yard that hadn't been mowed in weeks. Scott worked long shifts at the plant, so I had the place mostly to myself, too much time to think. William stayed with me on weekends. Daphne tried to fight it, but my lawyer got a temporary custody agreement. Every Friday after school, I'd drive up to Portland to pick him up. He'd run to the truck, backpack bouncing, smiling like the world was right again. For those 2 days, it almost felt normal. James never came. There was always an excuse. Baseball, a friend's birthday, homework. But I knew why. Daphne had gotten to him first. One Saturday in late September, William and I were at the park near Scott's place. He was on the swings, laughing as he kicked higher into the air. I was watching him from a bench when my phone rang. It was Jamie. Dale, he said, his voice tight. You need to hear something. What's going on? I asked. It's about James, Jamie said. Rachel ran into Daphne's sister at the store yesterday. They started talking, and Lisa let something slip. My stomach tightened. What did she say? Jamie paused for a moment, then said quietly, James isn't yours, Dale. Biologically, I mean. Lisa said Daphne told her years ago. The timing never matched up. She got pregnant right when you 2 were separated back in '09. The world tilted. I gripped the phone. What? I'm sorry, man, Jamie said. But I thought you should know. I hung up, my hands trembling. William was still on the swings, his blonde hair catching the sunlight, laughter filling the air. And then I thought about James. Dark hair, dark eyes, nothing like me. I'd raised that boy for 15 years. Changed his diapers. Taught him to ride a bike. Sat through every game, every parent-teacher meeting, every birthday. And he wasn't mine. That night, after I dropped William off in Portland, I sat in my truck outside Daphne's house and called her. What do you want? She snapped. Is James mine? I asked. No build-up, no hesitation. Silence. Daphne, I said, my voice low. Answer me. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, but her tone faltered. Yes, you do, I said. Is James mine? Another long silence. Then she sighed. Does it matter? She said. You raised him. You're his father in every way that counts. That's not what I asked, I said. No, she finally admitted. He's not yours. But you didn't need to know. It would have only complicated things. I closed my eyes. My chest felt crushed. Who's his father? Does it matter? She repeated. Who? I demanded. She didn't answer. Finn, I guessed. No, Daphne said softly. Someone else. From long before Finn. I laughed bitterly. How many, Daphne? She hung up. I sat there in the dark, staring at the house that used to be mine, and felt something inside me shatter completely. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. My mind kept circling one terrible question. If James wasn't mine, was William? William meant everything to me. His laugh, his curiosity, the way he looked at me like I could fix the whole world. The thought that he might not be my son was unbearable. But I had to know. The next morning, I called my lawyer and told him what Daphne had admitted about James. He didn't sound surprised. We'll need a paternity test for William, he said. Just to be sure. It'll help with custody. How long does it take? I asked. 2 weeks for the results, he replied. I'll arrange everything. Those 2 weeks were torture. Every time William smiled at me, I saw doubt. Every time he called me Dad, I felt fear twist inside me. What if he wasn't mine? What if I'd spent 8 years loving someone else's child? I tried to act normal. Took him to the movies, made pancakes on Saturday mornings, read him stories at night. But inside, I was falling apart. Scott noticed. One night, after William had gone to bed, he found me sitting on the porch with a beer in my hand, staring into the dark. You okay? He asked, sitting beside me. No, I said honestly. The test, he guessed. I nodded. What if he's not mine, Scott? What if I lose him too? Scott was quiet for a while, then said, You won't. Even if that test says something you don't want to hear, you're still his dad. You're the one who's been there. That counts for something. Does it? I asked. Because I was there for James too, and it didn't matter. James is 15, Scott said. He's old enough to make his own choices. But William's 8. He needs you. He knows you're his dad, no matter what some test says. I wanted to believe him. But belief was hard to come by those days. The results came back on a Tuesday. My lawyer called me at work. Dale, he said, the test results are in. William is yours. Biologically confirmed. I had to sit down. Relief hit me so fast I felt dizzy. You still there? My lawyer asked. Yeah, I managed. I'm here. This is good news, he said. It'll help your case for custody. I thanked him and hung up, then just sat there and cried. Not from sadness, but from pure relief. William was mine. I hadn't lost everything. That relief lasted about a week before reality crept back in. I had one son who was biologically mine and one who wasn't. One who wanted to see me and one who didn't. The weight of it all pressed down harder every day. I kept up appearances, went to work, picked up William on weekends, smiled when I was supposed to, but at night, alone in Scott's spare room, I started drinking. Just a beer or two at first, then 3. Then I stopped counting. Scott found me one Thursday night passed out on the couch, an empty whiskey bottle on the floor. He didn't yell or judge. He just helped me to bed and left a glass of water by the nightstand. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and found him sitting at the kitchen table waiting for me. We need to talk, he said. I'm fine, I muttered. No, you're not, Scott said. You're drinking yourself numb. William called me yesterday, said you didn't show up to pick him up. My stomach dropped. What? You were supposed to get him at 3, Scott said. It's 7:30 now. You missed it, Dale. You were too drunk to remember. I dropped my head into my hands. Oh, God. Yeah, Scott said quietly. And you think Daphne won't use this against you? You think the court will give you custody when you can't even show up sober? He was right. I knew he was right. But I didn't know how to stop the pain, how to shut off the voice in my head that replayed every lie, every betrayal, every moment I ignored the truth. I don't know what to do, I said, my voice breaking. Scott reached across the table, resting a hand on my shoulder. You get help, he said firmly. You talk to someone. You stop drowning yourself in a bottle. William needs you, and right now, you're letting him down. His words hit like a punch, because they were true. I'd been so lost in my own pain that I'd forgotten the one person who still believed in me, my son. That morning, I called William and apologized. He was quiet for a moment. It's okay, Dad, he said softly. Mom said you were busy with work. Daphne had covered for me. I didn't know if that made it better or worse. I'm sorry, buddy, I said. It won't happen again. I promise. Okay, William said. I love you, Dad. I love you too, I said, and meant it more than I'd ever meant anything. After I hung up, Scott handed me a business card. Friend of mine, he said. Therapist. She's good. Call her. I looked at the card. Dr. Angela Barnes. I'd never been to therapy before. Honestly, I never thought I'd need it. But I was running out of ways to keep myself together, and I couldn't keep falling apart, not with William watching me. Not anymore. That same afternoon, I made an appointment. Therapy didn't fix me overnight. It wasn't some magic switch that made the pain vanish. But week by week, something inside me started to settle. Dr. Barnes never judged or pitted me. She didn't tell me what I should feel. She just listened. And sometimes that was enough. I quit drinking, started going to AA meetings, sitting in the back and listening to men who'd lost everything and somehow climbed back. Their stories hit hard. Made me realize I wasn't the only one trying to rebuild from the wreckage. If they could make it, maybe I could too. William began spending more time with me. The court extended my weekends to include Wednesdays and Thursdays. It wasn't full custody yet, but it was a step forward. Every extra hour with him reminded me why I was fighting so hard. But James, he was still a ghost. He ignored my messages, my calls, everything. Daphne said he didn't want to see me, and legally there wasn't much I could do. Then, one evening in mid-November, everything shifted. I was making dinner for William when my phone rang, an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. Hello, Dad. It was James. His voice sounded older, heavier somehow. James, I said, gripping the phone tighter. Hey, buddy. I'm really glad you called. A pause. Then, quietly, can we meet? Just you and me. Of course, I said without hesitation. When? Tomorrow. There's a coffee shop on Burnside. 2 o'clock? I'll be there, I promised. The next day I drove to Portland an hour early and sat in my truck, watching strangers come and go. At exactly 2, I went inside. James was already there, sitting in a corner booth, coffee in front of him. Hey, I said, sliding into the seat across from him. Hey, he replied. No smile, just guarded eyes. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said quietly, Mom told me about the test, that you're not my real dad. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I found out a few weeks ago. She also told me about the rest of it, he continued. The cheating, the lies, all of it. I didn't know what to say. He looked down at his cup. I've been mad at you, James said. For leaving, for breaking up the family. But then Mom, she started acting weird. Finn's been around the house a lot, and she acts like it's totally normal. Like we should just accept it. I'm sorry you're stuck in the middle of this, I said softly. He looked up at me. Are you? You left. You just walked away. I left her, James, I said carefully. Not you. Never you. But I'm not even yours, he said, his voice cracking. So why would you care? Because I raised you, I said firmly. Because I was there when you took your first breath. Because I taught you how to throw a ball and help with your homework and cheered for you at every single game. DNA doesn't erase that. You're my son, maybe not by blood, but in every way that counts. James's eyes filled with tears. He looked away, wiping his face with his sleeve. I don't know what to do, he said quietly. Everything's falling apart. Mom's angry all the time. Finn's always around. And William keeps asking when you're coming home. I'm not going back there, I told him gently. But I'm not disappearing, either. If you want me in your life, I'm here. Always. James nodded slowly. Can I stay with you? At Uncle Scott's place? Just for a bit? I felt something loosen in my chest. Of course you can, I said. Anytime. For the first time in months, James smiled, small and hesitant, but real. The custody hearing was set for early December. My lawyer said we had a strong case, proof of infidelity, years of deception, witnesses ready to testify about Daphne's manipulation. But family court was unpredictable, and I knew better than to assume anything. By then, James had been living with me and Scott for 3 weeks. He shared a room with William, and somehow, the two of them found their way back to being brothers again, laughing, arguing, playing like kids are supposed to. On the morning of the hearing, I put on my best suit and drove to the courthouse in Portland. Scott came with me. James wanted to, but I told him no. He didn't need to see this part. Daphne was already there, sitting beside her lawyer. Her hair was neatly tied back, makeup soft, outfit modest, playing the role of the worried mother perfectly. When she saw me, her expression hardened. The hearing lasted 3 hours. My lawyer laid everything out. The messages, the hotel charges, the calls to Finn. Jamie testified about her lies. Scott testified about my commitment to William. Then Daphne took the stand. And she played her part flawlessly. She cried at all the right moments, her voice trembling just enough when she spoke about how much she loved her kids. She admitted to making mistakes, yes, but insisted she was trying to change. Then came the story of how I'd supposedly abandoned my family before she had a chance to make things right. It was a performance, and for a brief moment, I worried the judge might actually believe it. But then my lawyer asked the question that turned everything around. Mrs. Pritchard, he said calmly, is it true that James is not biologically Dale Pritchard's son? Color drained from Daphne's face. I don't see how that's relevant, she murmured. Please answer the question, the judge instructed. Daphne hesitated, then finally said, no, he's not. And you never told Dale? My lawyer pressed. I didn't think it mattered, she replied defensively. You let him raise another man's child for 15 years, believing that boy was his own, and you didn't think it mattered? My lawyer repeated, his tone cutting. Daphne said nothing. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Pritchard, I'm asking you directly. How long have you been engaged in extramarital affairs? Daphne glanced at her attorney. He gave a slow, reluctant nod. Several years, she whispered. The judge made a note, then looked at me. Mr. Pritchard, even knowing James is not your biological son, do you wish to continue a relationship with him? Yes, Your Honor, I said without hesitation. He's my son in every way that counts. The judge nodded. Noted. Then he called for a recess. When court resumed, the ruling was delivered. Primary custody of William would be granted to me. Daphne would have supervised visits every other weekend. As for James, since he was 15, the court would let him decide where to live. He'd already made that decision. I left the courthouse that day with both of my sons. Not because of blood, but because of love. 8 months later, life looked different. Better. Not perfect, but better. I'd moved out of Scott's place into a modest 3-bedroom home in Eugene. Nothing fancy. Just a house with a yard big enough for the boys to play and space for all of us to breathe. James had his own room. William had his. And for the first time in a long while, peace filled the walls. James finished his sophomore year at his new school, joined a baseball team, made friends, started smiling again. He still spoke to Daphne occasionally, but only when he wanted to. William thrived too, happier than I'd seen him in years. No more tension, no more walking on eggshells. Just laughter, noise, and freedom. As for Daphne, I heard from Jamie that things had gone downhill. Finn left once the custody scandal became public. Apparently, being the other man wasn't great for his real estate image. Daphne tried to rebuild, but the lies caught up to her. Friends drifted away. Family kept their distance. She'd made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. I didn't feel sorry for her, but I didn't hate her anymore either. Hate takes energy I no longer had. I was too busy building something real. One warm Saturday in July, I was in the backyard grilling burgers when James came outside and sat on the porch steps. Hey, Dad, he said. I turned toward him. He'd started calling me Dad again about 2 months earlier. The first time, it nearly broke me. What's up, buddy? I asked. I was thinking, James began, about everything. About Mom, about Finn, about finding out you're not my biological father. I set down the spatula and walked over to him. Yeah, I said softly. I just wanted to say thank you, James continued, for not giving up on me, for fighting for me, even when you didn't have to. I sat beside him. James, you're my son. Biology doesn't decide that. It never will. He nodded, eyes fixed on his hands. I know, he said quietly, and I'm glad you're my dad. The real one. Just then, William burst through the back door holding a soccer ball. Dad, James, come play before dinner. I ruffled his hair and smiled. You got it, kiddo. The three of us spent the next hour kicking the ball around the yard, laughing and arguing over imaginary fouls. It was simple, ordinary, everything I'd fought for. That night, after the boys were asleep, I sat on the porch with a beer and looked up at the stars. I thought about the man I'd been a year earlier, the one who believed the lies, stayed silent when he should have spoken up, almost lost himself in the wreckage of a broken marriage. That man was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, someone who knew his worth, someone who'd rebuilt from the ground up and come out better for it. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't broken. I was free, and that was everything.